And we are live. Welcome to this week's edition of the Bullpen Cart, presented by ThunderblogSports.com. I, of course, am Jordy Cannell, the G-Man, and with me is my man all the way up from Boston, Greg Piatelli. How are you, my friend?
Doing great. Thanks for asking. Minor setback for a major comeback.
Oh, yeah?
How you doing?
I'm good, man. You know, we were just talking a little bit off air, recovering from a red eye I took last night from Seattle. I was out there for my cousin's weekend over the wedding, or my cousin's wedding over the weekend. Yeah, you can tell how fucking tired I am. But yeah, you know, it was a good time. Never been to the Pacific Northwest before. Definitely would go back. Awesome views. And a little bit smokiness to it, Greg. There's a lot of wildfires up there, and they were blowing down from Canada. The smoke was, so you had a little bit of a little hint of it in the air. Greg, you there?
Yeah.
All right, you were going in and out.
You were going in and out.
Fucking shit, man. What the fuck?
Okay, we'll just retape the intro.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Can you hear me fine now, or am I still going in and out? Greg? God damn it.
Hello?
Yep, I'm right here. Can you hear me fine, or am I going in and out?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. God damn it. All right. Hopefully this is the only time it happens. All right. We'll go live in 3, 2, and we are live. Welcome to this week's edition of the Bullpen Cart, presented by ThunderblogSports.com. I, of course, am Jordy Cannell, the G-Man, and with me is my man all the way up from Boston, Mr. Greg Piatelli. How are you?
Minor setback, Jordy, for a major comeback. Feeling good, feeling confident.
It's always good. Feeling? You know, I'm good. A little tired. We were talking a little off air that I took a red eye last night from my cousin's wedding out in Seattle over the weekend. And, you know, red eyes are not fun, but I really enjoyed the Pacific Northwest. It was an awesome wedding, cool atmosphere, and yeah, I mean, Seattle's a pretty cool city.
Did you get your toes in the Pacific Ocean?
I did not. We didn't get that far out. We did go west. That's where the wedding was this resort about an hour west, still on the Puget Sound. So there was salt water and all that jazz. It was a little cold, though. Normally, apparently, it's like 85 and zero humidity, and it was in the 60s. So I was not doing too much swimming. I did bring my trunks, but no hopping in the water for me.
Global warming. What a myth.
Yeesh. But yeah, let's jump into baseball. Yeah, we're in the last week of August. We were talking a little bit off air. September call-ups happening on Saturday, but you know, the month of August has certainly been interesting across the bigs for a number of the different teams. I mean, your Boston Red Sox have had their ups and some of their downs, and other teams that have been in the running have maybe fallen off a bit. We'll jump right into it, but I mean, it's definitely been an interesting run at it, and we're starting to see some of the playoff pictures becoming a little more clear and others getting a little more murky.
Oh, for sure. And some teams that need to have big weeks from the last time we talked took a step back, and some teams took some steps forward. So, as you mentioned, some teams distancing themselves and move. Jordy, if you want, Philadelphia Phillies picked up Joey Bats, Jose Bautista. Are you excited for it?
Yeah, you know, it's going to be interesting, and especially because we talked a little bit with September call-ups happening, the Phillies can finally make some moves around getting all these guys that they've quietly snagged in the waiver period, Bautista being the next of them. And, you know, with expanding out into a 40-man roster, they can finally bring up some of these people that they had to send down or are coming back from the DL and obviously guys they've acquired, and it'll be nice to see and how they are able to use all of them and give players days off and continue to tinker around a little bit more before we get to the playoffs, or if they get to the playoffs, that is.
I mean, I think it's a great move. I think, unfortunately, he's not a lefty, but bad flip for days.
Yeah. Oh man, could you imagine that in a Phillies uniform? Oh boy.
Especially that minor league park. Speaking of little league ballparks, did you catch any of the Little League World Series? I know you're at the wedding, but you catch any of the Little League World Series?
I got to see a little bit of the final game. Hawaii, shout out to them. They beat South Korea. I saw a little bit of the U.S. final. That one kid that they had pitching was a monster. But the guy that pitched on Sunday wasn't too bad either, it looked like.
Yeah, he only let up 2 hits, I believe, maybe 3.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Like that. It was a big day for him. And the saddest is it's the last one in Williamsport.
What do you mean?
It's moving to LA.
Are you serious?
Yeah. The Little League World Series is moving.
I'm in shock and awe right now. You
know this?
No.
Yeah. It's moving from Williamsport.
Why would the MLB announce a game next year in Williamsport again between the Pirates and the Cubs?
Oh shit, I fell for a hoax. Little moving hoax. Uh-oh.
Well, you could be right, but something I'm freaking out right now, Jordy.
Let's I'm pulling this up here.
Freaking me out, man.
I guess this has been happening a number of different times. Yeah, it is completely false. It was a hoax that got spread around Twitter yesterday that I fell victim to.
Ugh.
Oh man.
My heart is in my throat, Jordy.
Yeah. I mean, you've been there. I've never even been out to Williamsport, but you've been, and this is that would have probably killed the inner child of Greg Piatelli.
Oh, crushing. I've been there twice. Crushing. Yeah. Jordy, you need to go.
I do need to go. And I found out, and I should have put 2 and 2 together, and I just never did because I see that they show their scores every single night. That the minor league park they play that classic in is a Phillies single A team, and I know literally they show the Williamsport Crosscutters score on every single Phillies broadcast. I never realized that until yesterday.
Jordy, you need to get to Williamsport next year for sure, 100%.
Should we make that a road trip? Get a pod from Williamsport?
I'm so in, indubitably.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Hopefully I don't have a wedding at the end of August next year that we can make it out there.
The team from Hawaii started out the championship game well. The leadoff batter for Hawaii took the first pitch and turned on it. Home run, 1-0, start the game, and then they ended up getting 2 runs on a pass ball or an error by the catcher. So it ended up being, the home run and then manufacturing 2 runs through errors and such. But it's just an exciting game. That the Hawaii team didn't commit 1 error all tournament. Granted, they only played 4 games because the new system,
didn't they let up only 5 runs too?
3 runs.
3 runs? That's what it was? Holy shit.
Yeah, and I mean, the new system, they threw the same 2 pitchers for both games because they had such low pitch numbers, and those kids, their top pitchers were able to go because they kept winning. So,
that's good. What is it? The new system now? Is it a modified double elimination?
Yeah, so it's if you win, you're in the winners bracket. So they won their first game, and then they played another team that won their first game, so they won that game, and that put them automatically into I believe it put them either automatically into the U.S. championship game.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at this. Yeah, so I guess
so they win 2 games and they're automatically in the U.S. championship, and then they win that and they've only played 3 games and now they're in the Little League World Series.
Okay, I'm seeing this now. So to kind of give everybody a visual of it, it's a bracket of 8 matchups. Um, so the winners play each other in a quarterfinal, and the winners play each other. And how it works on the other side of it is that the losers of the quarterfinals play each other, and then the winners go on to the winners then of those games play each other and knock themselves off. So the team that ultimately wins of this winner's side, as Greg was saying, ends up playing the winner of the losers bracket in the U.S. tournament.
Yeah.
So it almost, if you imagine an 8-team bracket, imagine another bracket going on the other side of it, but then double elimination happening and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, so there are teams that are out by the first weekend. So like the team from New England played Thursday and then they lost, and they played Sunday and they lost. So
yeah, Rhode Island, seeing this now.
Saturday, yeah, they were done within the first 3 days, and the team from Hawaii played 4 games total and won the World Series. So I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of the new system, but it allows us to get the dominant pitchers. It allows us to get the best players on the mound, which, you know, is good because you want to see the best baseball, and good because it puts less pressure on kids. And
yeah,
you know, it's one of those things where, sorry, I know I say that all the time, but it's awesome.
No, it is awesome. And it's crazy how this whole thing happens. So everybody has to lose twice until you get to the U.S. championship, just looking at it. So, like, for instance, Hawaii beat New York in the game to go to the U.S. championship, and New York still got to play again. They got to play technically the winner of the losers bracket in one more semifinal. This is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's the weirdest.
Visualized out.
Oh, yeah, it's the weirdest thing. And it's like, it's a crazy schedule because New York won their first game, and then
I think we had this style of tournament in like a single day, like baseball or hockey tournament when I was like a kid, but like not over the course of 2 weeks. So I understand your ire towards this, because what did they used to do? Group play, and then they did like semifinals and all that.
Yeah, so it used to be. Yeah, so 100%. It used to be group play and more of. I mean, it was still double elimination, but it was were predetermined the first 2 games as opposed to just the first game.
Yeah, okay.
But we
interesting.
Yeah, huge win for Hawaii, and oddly enough, since the new format, Jordy, the last like 5 or 6 winners have all been teams that went that only played 4 games, went 4-0. So
wow, I guess you're right though. Like, you get that extra time. Do they get? I get because they have less pitches thrown that they're allowed to pitch again, because that's Little League's big thing. Is there? Because I remember, like, at least when we played Little League, if there was a certain time that they had off, that number got reduced, or like the amount of pitches they could throw in a subsequent game. Does that help with it as well?
Yeah, so it's like if you
have 3 days off or something.
Yeah, exactly. So if you throw 25 pitches, you can pitch the next day. If you throw 50 or 35 pitches, you have to wait 2 days. If you throw 50 pitches, you have to wait 3 days. And then if you throw more than 50, you have to wait 4 days. And then you can't exceed like 75. I think the number is.
Yeah, I remember that.
So if you make it past that 80, if you get to the 75, 80 number, then you have to wait 4 days or what have you. So the kid, their best pitcher who pitched the first day, the monster you were talking about on Saturday, he pitched their first game. And then their ace, or then their second pitcher who won the championship game yesterday, pitched game 2. And because they were essentially in the finals, both of them were able to come back and pitch. They pitched the first 2 games. They were able to pitch the last 2.
Oh, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, so it's easy. I'm pretty sure they played 4. You're looking at it, right?
Yeah, they played 4 games, and I don't have the dates. I just exited out of it. But they played 4 games, and I guess if you have the time off, that is a little crazy that you'd let them basically just skip ahead. But I guess the number makes sense in terms of how it all works.
Yeah, so if you're in the losers bracket, you play right away, and they save the winners. So like Thursday, Friday, everyone plays. And then the losers play that Saturday, Sunday, and then the winners play Monday, Tuesday. And then the losers bracket continues whatever, Wednesday, Thursday, and then championship Saturdays.
I guess Hawaii. Hawaii played 5 games. So they played August 17th. They just pulled this back up. August 19th, the 22nd, the 25th, and then yesterday, the 26th.
So the point is the same. Their 2 best pitchers did the first 2 games and the last 2 games. They only had to run out there 3 pitchers, max. And through the 5 games, they only let up 3 runs and had 0 errors. And in a Little League game, if you have 0 errors for a whole tournament, you're definitely winning. So good for them. Good on them. Yeah. Let's get to the big boys, Jordy.
Yeah, let's get over to there. And coming off of the Players' Weekend, which once again was a resounding success, and a lot of the different stories that came out of it, from the different ways all the players who say thank you to, or they dedicate their weekend to, whether it's Bryce Harper sending his cleats to a children's hospital for them to all sign it. Rhys Hoskins did the same thing with a bat and then actually hit a home run with it. But it's just a tremendous weekend. So shout out to the MLB for that whole weekend and how successful it is. I think everybody loves it.
I hate it. I hate the Players' Weekend.
Do you?
Yeah, the Red Sox have 1 win during Players' Weekend. Actually, yeah, 1 win in 2 years over Players' Weekend. So I hate it. I'm done with it.
Yeah. I did think it was weird. There were a couple of jerseys this year that used a lot of neon. I thought last year's jerseys were a little better, although I thought the Phillies were better than there was last year. But like the Pirates had neon yellow instead of that usual what they call Pittsburgh gold. The Brewers had the same neon on their sleeves, which was a little too much. They have gold as their other color. Why do you need neon? But the stories, at least that come out of it, I think are pretty awesome.
Oh, the stories are great, and the fact that a lot of players use their country flag customized on their bat, or they have cool different cleats and everything, and that whole story, those storylines are great. It was frustrating. The Red Sox had the same exact jerseys as last year, and I thought the Rays had pretty cool jerseys, but it's tough because when the announcer starts using the guys' nicknames, it's like, all right, well, who are they? Who is it really? Who am I really watching?
Yeah. Well, I mean, with Mookie Betts, it was pretty easy. He was just Mookie.
No. I know that for the Red Sox. I'm talking about if I was to watch the Phillies game. Speaking of homer by the Phillies, let's go 5-3, Jordy.
Big one. Big homer.
Reese
fucks against a former Philly, Ryan Madsen. Quickly to close on the jerseys, did you see Brad Boxberger's, the guy on the Diamondbacks?
What was it?
His name is Brad Boxberger, Berger, all one word, but his jersey was a box emoji and a hamburger emoji.
Really? That's pretty cool. Yeah. They could do emojis.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. They showed that like last week, and I saw it on, I think it was Sports Center or something on Instagram when I was waiting in the Seattle airport to fly out. But I thought that was hysterical. That's awesome. Well, let's move into the usual business. Hot and cold teams. We mentioned it at the top of the show. Some teams that needed to win did exactly what they needed to do. Others who needed to do something kind of let down a little bit. But let's start in the American League. Greg, I'm going to start with you, and we'll go from there.
I love it, Jordy. Hot team of the week?
Yes, the hot team of the week in the American League for you is?
The Tampa Bay Rays.
Oh, all right.
Winners of 8 straight games.
Got to mention them.
Including sweeping the best team in baseball. Not only did they sweep the best team in baseball, but they held the best team in baseball, of course, the Boston Red Sox. They held the best team in baseball to 5 runs total over 3 games. And we're talking about a Rays team that started out the year with 4 starters, and the 5th starter is going to be a bunch of relievers going in. And they've had some injuries to their starting rotation and traded some guys, so they have even less starters and even more of this whole rotating bullpen thing. So they, as a pitching staff, I mean, granted, it's a bunch of first-round pitchers that have the talent and are good enough to be there. And so it's good because they're getting all these guys experience. But it's impressive that they're able to hold the best offense in baseball and the best team in baseball to 5 runs over 3 games. And in the same breath, the Rays offense put up 10 runs in the first game, 5 runs in the second game, 9 runs in the third game. So they absolutely manhandled the Boston Red Sox. And then before that, coming into the series, they had a 4-game sweep of the Kansas City Royals, which put them on winning 7 straight home games, 7 home games in a row, winning all 7. So good for them. Great week for them. Last 7 days, unbelievable.
They've had a really good August if you've looked at it.
Oh yeah, I mean a great August, and a team that, I mean, 70-61, unbelievable for a team that didn't have a fifth starter. And yeah, they're 9 games out of the wild card, but they're still, that many games over 500. So good for them and impressive. And any other year, they might be in the thick of it.
Yeah, I mean they've also got so many guys in their farm system. I was reading about this over the weekend that they are a serious threat to be in a couple of years a big contender in the American League East and the American League. I mean, a lot of what I read was based on nothing happening in terms of free agency. So teams like the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Mariners, if they can get some extra cash, they were all a little bit further down on that list of sort of teams set up for the future. But if the Rays let their natural talent develop, they can certainly do something like what the A's have managed to do so many times with Moneyball and figuring out low dollar guys that have tremendous value and that they can control for a number of years because of the fact that they have to get through so many years before they can be free agents and get the money that they're actually worth.
Well, no, and I think it's more of the Rays teams that went to the World Series with David Price and played the Phillies. I think it's more of that, where they are so young, they're going to have those developing superstars like Longoria and Price who probably are playing now, but no one knows who they are until they're huge in like 2 or 3 years. The big issue is obviously the Yankees have just as much young talent, and those guys are already big names. And the Red Sox prove time and time again they are willing to sell the farm and sell their prospects to get the big name free agency. So, but the Rays, as you mentioned, are poised to make a deep run. So great point, Jordy. That's my hot team of the week. Who you got?
I'm going to go with the Houston Astros.
Great pick.
The winners of 5 straight and went 6-1 over the week, all on the road too. They were in Seattle last week and then went to Anaheim over the weekend, and they are starting to really turn it on offensively. They've put up a large number of runs. Their pitching staff is starting to really hold it together, despite Justin Verlander getting some astronomically high bills in Los Angeles. He still came out and pitched well this weekend. Don't know if you saw that, but we'll come back to that in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the Astros, they're playing the A's right now, who also had themselves a pretty good week. But they did exactly what they needed to do when the A's were touching on first place. And the Astros are now a game and a half up. They're winning right now in I believe it's the 6th inning. But it's 5-4 there in a crucial series. We'll probably talk about that more in a bit as well. But we could be seeing the start of a Astros team making the strides to get up to where their run differential suggests they should be, despite the fact that they're 30 games above 500. I think they may not be able to get some separation like we've been seeing from the Indians, but we're going to start seeing them get closer and closer to 100 games, I think, by the time we get to the middle of September.
No, it's a great team, great choice. And, the Astros are a team that were our cold team last week. So, granted, they played an Angels team who has been going in the wrong direction for quite some time, despite getting Mike Trout back. But the Astros could not have gotten Jose Altuve back fast enough. And I think his return to the lineup is a huge reason as to why, they won 4 games in a row. Not necessarily, 6 games in a row, 5 games in a row.
Yeah, it's 5 now.
Not necessarily that he is doing well, but, just having that bat in the lineup, having, if Ortiz was out and then when he came back, the security of the rest of the lineup, the security of the starting pitcher being like, okay, I got to give this guy a ball to hit because I got David Ortiz up next, so I got to go after the guy in front of me now. So you really want to. It's good to have that security blanket in the lineup for the Astros. And you mentioned definitely the start of a run, hopefully for them. Not hopefully, but if I'm an Astro fan, hopefully for them. But
exactly
for me, hopefully they start going the other direction. They have a tough schedule coming up, Jordy.
They do. A really tough schedule coming up.
Yeah, they're playing Oakland. Oakland, and then the Angels, who they just took care of, but the Angels are still the Angels. Minnesota, but then they play the Red Sox, Arizona, Seattle, Toronto at Toronto. We all know how miserable that is, as the Phillies learned, which we will talk about. So they got a tough little couple series here coming down the stretch. They'll be tested pretty well. But if you remember the end of the season last year on the road as well for the last two series, so trend positive for them. Great pick, Jordy. Do you want to start over with the National League or?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with them, and I'm going to go with, for my hot team in the NL, the Chicago Cubs, winners of 5 straight games and really getting a big monkey off their back. They just swept the Cincinnati Reds over the weekend, a team that for a while in the first half when the Reds were going on a tear had their number. The Cubs were a team who had been a little shaky and couldn't really get a streak going together. They've now won 5 in a row. They are playing the Mets in New York before they come to the Phillies later this week. I'll be going on Friday, not a big deal, but they are winning 4-3 in New York. And since acquiring Daniel Murphy, which I don't think that had happened by the time we had recorded last week, the Cubs could tie a major league record. It looks like, to win 6 straight games since acquiring a player. And that player getting hit, I should say. He'd be the first Cub since 1908 to do that, and no one has done that in their first 7 games ever in baseball.
I love it, Jordy. Fan of Murph?
What was that?
Are you a fan of Daniel Murphy?
He always played well against the Phillies, whether he was a Met or when he was a National. So I've always been a fan of what he's been able to do, looking at it objectively. But as a Phillies fan, I've never really been the biggest fan of Daniel Murphy.
That's a fair point. He really burst onto the scene that year the Mets went to the World Series, and he's one of those guys who you just think has been around forever, but he's pretty young, correct?
Yeah, he's pretty young. I need to get the exact age for him, but he hasn't been around that long. I
love the pick. Big fan, and it couldn't have come at a better time for the Cubs.
He's actually 33.
Oh, wow, way off. Good for us.
Shit. Go us.
But, yeah, you go us. But it couldn't come at a better time for the Cubs. Because obviously the Cardinals having the unbelievable week they had, winners 7 of the last 10. So the Cubs need to keep pace and keep that little gap they have there. And great choice, Jordy. Great choice.
Yeah, I try. What about you? Who you got?
I'm gonna go with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Good pick.
Also winners of 7 of the last 10. They lost 2 out of 3 to Seattle, but at home, which is tough look. But bounced back nicely. Zach Greinke on the bump did it well for them. But the Diamondbacks are a team that we talked about their pitching for so long, Jordy. Recently, especially in this month of August, their hitting and their bats have really come alive. Consistently scoring over 5 runs, and even in losses, a couple of losses they blanked, but other than that, they really have been doing well to hit the ball and get some runs in. So good for them, and position themselves a game ahead of the Rockies, 2 games ahead of the Dodgers. We could see the Dodgers not make the playoffs. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's pretty wild, and we can kind of look at the rest of how the NL West is going to shape up, because the Giants aren't really going away. I was going to make the point that the Diamondbacks are playing the Giants right now, and obviously the Padres are in there, and they're not really doing too much. But that NL West is pretty tough, and the way that you mentioned the Cardinals, the Brewers are looking like they might be fading, but they've seemed like that a couple times this year, and they haven't. The Phillies are right there. The Braves are leading a division. They're in a chase, so both of them are going to need to keep winning games. I think the Dodgers, they've won 3 straight, and they're only 2.5 back, but they need to kind of get it going a little more. And it's kind of tough to say that. They have a plus 121 run differential. They should have such a better winning percentage. And I'm not really sure. We talked about this last week of what to do with the Dodgers. And is it the fact that they're, tweaking too much? Is it tweaking too little? Is it this? Is it that? They just swept the Padres. They're about to go play the Rangers this week. I guess we're just going to have to see how it goes down. They're playing the Dodgers, and the Diamondbacks have 7 more games against each other, including one final time in Arizona the last week of the regular season, where, think about this. I'm just looking at their final homestand. It's against the Cubs, the Rockies, and the Dodgers. So, the Diamondbacks, even if they get a little cool, they're going to have to face a gauntlet if they really want to prove that they are a playoff team, or that they should still be a playoff team since they made the playoffs last year. And the Dodgers, just looking down the stretch for them, I guess the nice thing comparatively is they don't have to play the Astros. They get to play the Mets, the Reds, the Padres a couple times. And then they close it off with the San Francisco Giants. So, they're going to have themselves an interesting schedule as well. And, you got to think that whoever gets into the playoffs, no matter what of these 8 or so teams in the National League that are still fighting, they're going to prove that they absolutely deserve to be there, because they're all going to be playing each other, and something's going to give. It's going to shake one way or the other, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. We have a lot of good baseball games coming up in September.
Oh, for sure. And a great point about the Diamondbacks, because they have a chance with that schedule you mentioned to really put some teams away, or play themselves right out of the playoffs. It could also make if they split some and win one series, lose the other, it could really make for an unbelievable last couple weeks of September down the stretch there. So I'm excited for that. Jordy, cold team of the week. Let's stay in the National League since we're talking about a little bit wild card, things like that. Final thing on the Dodgers before you do that, though, 2.5 games out of the division and 2.5 games out of the wild card. So they have, they're there. 2.5 games is nothing.
Oh, yeah.
So, before, I don't want people thinking we're out on them. 2.5 games with a month left is plenty of time. So,
for sure.
Cold team of the week, National League. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a team in the chase. I could have pretty easily gone with the Reds or the Padres, but I'm going to go with the Brewers, who are 5-5 over their last 10 games and have actually won their last 2 series. So I can't be too low on them, but just the fact that the Cardinals and the Cubs are so hot, and they won over the weekend 2 or 3 from the Pirates. They took 2 or 3 from the Reds last week, but before that, they lost 2 or 3 from the Cardinals, started the Cardinals resurgence. They split a series with the Cubs. It's not necessarily the place that they want to be in if they want to hang on in this. And now the Cardinals have taken over the first wild card spot and second place in the Central. So, if the Brewers aren't careful, they could find themselves falling out of this race. And they hit the road where they're not terribly great. They're 500 on the dot entering today. So they go to Cincinnati, who could see themselves bounce back. The Reds, who are a pretty good home team, despite having a sub 500 record, but when it's only 4 games under 500 comparatively to being 19 games under 500, it means that you're a little bit better at home than you are away, at least by averages. But they can put up runs. Those Reds can. And so if their pitching can hold it together against a Milwaukee Brewers team that when they're kind of like the Phillies, except not as extreme when their bats go cold, could be dangerous there. But then they go to the Nationals for the rest of the weekend, and that could be dangerous before playing the Cubs. So this is kind of a big week for them. If they don't get it going and win, I'd say 4 of 6, they could start seeing themselves slipping further and further back in the Central.
I mean, great choice. That was great. That was going to be my second cold team as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they were in it last week, correct?
Yeah, they were in it. And just because the Cubs went on a tear when they needed to. And
the big issue is the Cubs and the Cardinals made moves, and the Cubs and Cardinals made moves, and the Brewers didn't, stood pat and didn't. In terms of winning and losing, and the Brewers didn't do that to keep pace. So good for the Brewers or good for the Cardinals and the Cubs, and obviously bad for the Brewers. They're playing 500 ball, but 500 ball is not going to do that. Not going to do well when the Cubs and Cardinals have the lead that they have and have the weeks they had. So
exactly.
Great choice, Jordy. Do you want to hear my team or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sure. I'd love to tell you. Are you sure you want to hear my team?
I have a feeling I know what it is, unless you're going with the entirety again.
No, I'm going with the. I very easily could go with the entirety of the NL East, but I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies outright.
Yeah. Do you want to just use this as Phillies talk?
Sure. We 100% can. The reason why I'm not going with the entire NL East is simply because split 2 out of 4 of the placing those Phillies in second place and out of the wild card picture for now. Not only are they out of the division, but now they're a game out of the wild card. So losing 2 out of 3 in Toronto, Jordy, I tried to warn you. About playing at Toronto. Losing 2 out of 3 to the Nationals, never good. And never good. Losing to 2 out of 3 team division, and then interleague play, getting smoked on the road in Toronto. You watched it. Give me a little insider behind the scenes what you thought.
Yeah, so we've talked about this time and time again. The Phillies are a pretty awful road team, and they actually just lost to the Nationals tonight. It looks like that went final 5-3 in South Philadelphia. So chalk another one up there for the old fighting Phils. But really what happened last week, the bats were actually a bit alive. The start of the week, they had themselves a shitty night, losing 10-4. But then Wednesday, they were up and blew a lead. Your guy, Sir Anthony Dominguez, let up maybe one of the longest moonshot home runs to finish off a game on Wednesday night. And then Thursday, in probably a must-win game, because they had not won since his previous start, Aaron Nola comes out and pitches an absolute gem, beating out Max Scherzer, his fellow Cy Young competitor, 2-0 in a absolute pitcher's duel. That game will be replayed tomorrow, by the way. But then they go up to Toronto. You mentioned it. They blew a 2-0 lead. Granted, they lost 4-2, but they really couldn't find themselves helping out Jake Arrieta on Friday. And then Saturday, they got off to a 5-0 lead and ended up blowing that to lose 8-6. So, Sunday, they saw another great day from Wilson Ramos and saw the bats really come alive. But once again, tonight, it comes down to bats coming cold, especially late in the game. In this 5-3 loss, I should say, the defense really coming down and failing our guy, Zach Eflin mania. And that's really been a big part of this Phillies team. And we're getting now almost to September 1st, and their defense is still really shaky. And crazily enough, Greg, you just mentioned it. They're, only now 3.5 games back and now 2 games out of the wild card. But they need to figure some stuff out though in terms of this, because their pitching has been so stellar. Really, aside from the bullpen starting to give some real flashes back to the start of the season with some of this blown saves and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, they got to figure something out, and something's going to give one way or the other, where the youth of this team is either going to fade out, which that's part of why I'm so excited for September call-ups. I mentioned it before. Revitalize some of these guys they've gone out and traded for, and give some of them a break and maybe try to figure something out, especially in the bullpen side. But really, I mean, it's either going to be a great September, a la the second half of June, the start of July, or the youth might fade out for the Phils. So we're going to see, but it's not been a good stretch for the Phillies over the last week and a half.
No, and especially when you lose divisional opponents, and it's only going to get harder, as you mentioned. Nationals, Cubs, Marlins, Mets, Nationals, Marlins, Mets, Braves, Rockies, Braves. So a tough little schedule here to end it. You just hope that Gabe the Babe can get the boys on the right track and maneuver those September call-ups in a way that is beneficial to the team and gives guys rest, but at the same time gets guys going. I think the tough part for the Phillies is it's tough to be happy for a team that had a chance or was leading the division in the playoffs to then blow it. The thing you got to remember about the Phillies, obviously, is that at the same time blew it, they weren't supposed to be in that position in the first place.
Sure.
So it's a lose-lose situation unless they make the playoffs, but a lose-lose situation for the Phillies because they weren't supposed to be there, and the season, regardless of how it ends, the season has been a success for them. But when you have a taste of playoff first place and you are a playoff team until you blow it, it's going to seem like a failure because they were in the playoffs and then blew it. So
sure. It kind of reminds me, I was thinking about this earlier, of the 05 and 06 Phillies. The 05 Phillies missed the playoffs by a day, and in today's, actually in 06 as well, today's 2-team wild card, they would have made that game. But they were a team that very similarly to now, they had these guys coming up. It was just flashes of Chase Utley, no real Ryan Howard sightings yet. You had Jim Thome on the team. You had Jimmy Rollins for a while, Pat Burrell. And they got so close, but they couldn't execute when it mattered and missed the playoffs by so many games. 2005 by 1. 06, I think they faded off pretty badly once September got around. But I still think they came in second place to the Dodgers in that wild card run. But then 07 happens, and it was the same thing. Jimmy Rollins comes out in the offseason and says, I think we're a front runner, and everybody kind of laughed him off the board. They didn't think the season was going to be any good. And they end up having the incredible comeback against the Mets in the divisional race, 7 games back with 15 to go. And then, they did make the playoffs. They win the division, and they get swept by the Colorado Rockies. And it's one of those things where, for me, it was my first taste of Phillies playoff baseball, and it was since the last time they made it, it was the World Series loss in 1993. But this team right now feels like they're a couple steps away. And kind of like you said, it's a success because they weren't supposed to be this good. Their over-under was set at 78 wins, and they currently are 70 and 61. So getting to where we are at this point is exciting, certainly exciting. If they make the playoffs, fantastic. You weren't expected to. Awesome. But the nice thing is that there's still guys in the minor leagues, the Chase Utleys that we might have seen a flash of, or the Ryan Howard that we're still yet to see, someone that might be tearing up the minor leagues right now, or maybe just close to that. What's interesting about the Phillies call-up, and a good note on this, is that the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, their AAA team, are in the playoffs for AAA baseball. So what the Phillies are going to be doing are sending up guys from their 40-man roster in waves. So guys that aren't on the Iron Pigs, or maybe a few of them, they're going to bring up. But all the main core guys that they want to instill this attitude of winning together, they're going to have stay with the Iron Pigs. And then once that playoff run in the International League and they make the AAA baseball championship game, whenever that ends, they will then come up to play with the Phillies. But they're really wanting to instill what you heard the Royals did with all their guys when they came up and ultimately won the World Series. They really want to do that. So it's definitely this season's a things to
thoughts on that. What's your thought on that? What's your thought on that? Because I think that's fucking bullshit.
What, going after a minor league championship?
If I'm a prospect and I have a chance to play to make my major league debut,
there's got to be some sort of incentive that if they win.
Yeah, they don't send me up to win a fucking minor league playoff game. I'm pissed.
Yeah, I mean,
the sooner you come up, the more games you play, the sooner you get out of your rookie contract, and the sooner you can get out of arbitration, and the sooner you can get to the big money.
That's true. I mean, on the flip side, I guess it doesn't count against you being a rookie for the next year, but I don't know. It's a good idea of just trying to instill a winning culture within your guys, but I see what you mean there because it's, it would be nice to have the entire roster if you're a Phillies fan, and fuck if the Iron Pigs win or not, but kind of developing. I mean, I guess it's part of the development of the minor league system, but they would know better than we would, I guess. But that's it's a good thought.
I get the winning fan thing, culture thing, but what if those guys get called up and now they're part of a playoff baseball team in terms of that winning culture, right? Now they get to experience playing down the stretch and having to win important games, meaningful games, or value league fuck run. Unless whomever, it seems they're buster.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, and just so everyone knows how that all works in terms of being eligible to be on a playoff team, they must be on the 40-man roster, the 10 or the 60-day disabled list or bereavement list on midnight on August 31st to be eligible for the postseason rosters. So any players that are acquired in the month of September, whether it's a free agency signing or any sort of waiver trade or anything like that, they would not be eligible for postseason play. So whenever you hear stuff like that, that's why you hear they're still eligible for postseason play and things like that. So it's interesting. I mean, yeah, I get where you're coming from with that. And certainly,
let me ask you a question. If you're trying to build a playoff roster, right?
Yeah.
Or you're trying to build a winning culture. You're trying to win a winning culture. Let's say the Phillies don't make the playoffs. They send Sir Anthony Dominguez down to the minor league for the minor league championship playoff game.
That I don't know if that's allowed. If the Phillies were to fall out in the next couple of days, and that's just what they decided to do, I don't know if they're allowed to send him to Lehigh Valley because the 40-man roster is expanded.
But that's what I mean. Where's the line?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Sir Anthony Dominguez has been in the bigs though since May.
I'm just saying he played games in the minor league.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just the core of that team and what they've been doing, but who knows? I guess it's just a team's decision one way or the other of how they want to build it.
If you're a player, what are you doing?
If I had the option,
if you're a player in the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs team, and they said, "All right, you got a choice. You can play until we lose, which could and either never make it up, or you could go up now and get your shot in the major leagues."
Hold on, I'm checking when the AAA championship is. AAA Championship 2018. Because I think it's still like you get 2 weeks of what's it called? Yeah, you get a week and a half. This year it's going to be in the September. It looks like September 18th. So you still get about 2 weeks of play in the major leagues to get called up, and that's if you make it all the way to the AAA championship game.
But those 2 weeks, there's no guarantee that you're, going to play, let alone start, right?
Sure. On the flip side, though, most of these players, especially on a playoff contending team, they're getting spot starts here and there, or they're just getting. I mean, really, it's the relievers that you want and are excited to have come up. And what the Phillies also have, and a lot of this first wave, are guys that are coming off of the DL. So, I mean, that's part of it as well.
Answer the question: if you're a player in this same scenario, would you stay if they gave you the option? Would you stay and risk only having a week and a half and maybe get into one game, maybe, or would you go right from the jump and have the opportunity to play in multiple games in the majors all through September?
I want to see what my guys are doing. If I'm the third baseman and, Johnny's the shortstop, Jimmy's the second baseman, and Anthony is the first baseman, I want to see they're all on the 40-man roster. They're all these, they're all the infielders of the future, or supposedly. I'm
trying to back out of this, Jordy.
What? I would want to stay.
You'd want to stay. Okay,
I'd want to stay, me. But if everyone else is heading up and they're saying, no, fuck this, we don't want to win it, because I'm a team player. That's why I'm, quote, backing out of it. But I would want to stay on my gut instinct.
Well, you're staying, and while you're staying, those four guys you just mentioned took the spots to go up, and now you're stuck down with the second squad who decided to stay. Since you
can't. I think what you're assuming is that you can tweak the 40-man roster and all of that.
Yeah, but you just said they're bringing guys up in droves, so you don't have to bring. You don't
have to. Yeah, but no one took my spot. I'm still on the 40-man roster.
Right, but now that group of guys, they're going to be up in the majors, and you're not going to be.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in having guys win together and building that culture than there is. And I get trying to get your days of service in terms of getting to 6 total years of it quicker so you can get to free agency. But at the end of the day, the 2 weeks at the beginning of September versus the only having the 2 weeks at the end of September versus having the whole month is only going to account for like a fraction of it. So it's playing a full season up in the bigs, and by having I
guess it's a matter of playoff or Major League Baseball experience is more so than the arbitration thing.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, at the end of the day, and we've completely hijacked from our cold teams of the week. I think there's a lot more value in creating that winning culture because it's worked in the past.
All right, Jordy, we're gonna go back and forth. We can go back and forth. This all
exactly. We're now just running in circles.
I disagree, but
you're telling me I'm backing out of things. You're calling me out on.
Well, listen. If I'm the Phillies, it would behoove me to keep players in minor league as long as possible. If I'm a GM, but if I'm Gabe the Babe and I'm expected to manage a team of rookies next year, I want guys who have actually had some time, been in a major league ballpark, experienced major league clubhouse, been around some veterans, and I want to
clarify.
Those guys.
Most of the starters that are on the Phillies this year are going to be starters in the Phillies next year. Most of these guys, how some of the contracts work out with some of these players, unless they trade guys away, you would assume that somebody would be leaving, and then in which case it makes sense to have a right fielder come up and get experience, because in case they think Nick Williams is going to leave or they're going to trade away Nick Williams or Michael Franco for something, then I see the value in that.
All right, moving on, Jordy. Are we going to players or are we going to?
Well, we'd have to do cold teams in the American League before we do players.
All right, cold team American League. Who you got?
I'm going to just take the chalk pick, the Baltimore Orioles. They really that the dumpster fire for them it continues to burn bright. And Greg, I know we like to set number watches. I want to see if the Baltimore Orioles can break the MLB record for losses in a single season. And I think it's doable.
What is that number?
The highest number in the modern era, so 1900 to present, is the Philadelphia Athletics at 117 in 1916 in a 162 game season. That's by winning percentage. And 162 game season is the Detroit Tigers with 119 losses.
They're at 94 now.
Yep.
That seems like a lot of games.
I mean, the Tigers had 43 wins, so the Orioles would only have to win 5 more games from here on in to break the record.
I think they're gonna win at least. That's so tough. They just got embarrassed 4 games in a row by the Yankees.
Yeah,
and they get embarrassed by the Red Sox. It's a tough question. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go. They get at least 5 wins. 100%. I'm taking the over.
All right. What's more likely? The Red Sox break the win record or the Orioles break the loss record?
More likely?
Yeah.
Red Sox. Red Sox need the 40-man roster expansion. They need to give some guys some breaks.
All right.
They need to get into September badly.
No polar bear Paul Sox run for you? All right. What's your cold team of the week?
My cold team of the week is Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, that's a good one.
A team that 500 baseball, kind of like the Phillies. Not that they're doing anything bad, but they're playing themselves out of the playoff race. In doing so, by playing 500 baseball, they're now 6.5 games out of the first place in their division behind the Astros and the Athletics, and 5 games out of the wild card, and even more so behind the Yankees, 9 games behind the Yankees for the first wild card. So for me, no-brainer, Seattle Mariners, just to be relevant. They did beat Arizona 2 out of 3, but they lost to the Astros 2 out of 3. And before that, lost the Dodgers 2 out of 3, and before that, lost to Oakland 2 out of 3. So you need to win series in order to maintain and stay in the playoffs. Despite the Red Sox getting swept, they're going to be fine no matter what. So if I'm a Seattle Mariner fan, I'm freaking out a little bit. And that surge they got from Robinson Cano coming back seems to have cooled down a little bit. So hopefully they can find something to reignite them and get them back into the mix and knock out the Athletics there.
No, for sure. That's a really good pick. I like that a lot. And
I'm in.
I think the Mariners need to, if they can't figure something out quick, it's going to be almost lights out for them, because then they're going to keep digging themselves into a deeper hole. And that
we didn't even talk about the fact that Hernandez went to the bullpen, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's actually a really good point. Yeah. You want to provide a little color on that?
No, I mean, he's been pitching so poorly this year that they decided he's got to work some things out. Took him out of the starting rotation, and now he's a bullpen guy, which, for reference, the Red Sox did that with their number 5 starter because he couldn't make it past 4 innings, and it's just so inconsistent and can't find the strike zone. So now their number 5 starter became their long reliever, and the long reliever became the number 5 starter. So for Hernandez to be the premier pitcher in Major League Baseball less than 2 years ago, or even 2 years ago, to now be shunned to the bullpen, either it's the end of his career or his time, or he really needs to figure some things out and really needs to maybe paint the corners like CeCe does and get a little breaking ball instead of relying on just his gas that he used to throw and blow by people.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough look for him. I mean,
Didn't he throw a no-hitter last year?
was it last year? I
2 years
think it was a
ago?
couple years ago. But I mean, they just to even give you an idea, the guy has only 107 strikeouts in 135 innings pitched, and this guy normally gets close to one strikeout per inning pitched. He is almost his 24,499 or 24,49, excuse me, in 26,38 innings pitched. So I mean, he's close to one, which is pretty awesome in terms of a number. But I mean, that's a tough look to move out there. He'd never pitched in the bullpen before in the major leagues, which is kind of wild when you look at it.
The first time, I don't know, did he do it in the minors too? I think it's the first time since he's been a pro.
I don't know the minor numbers, but yeah, first time ever in the bigs, which is kind of wild. 5.64 ERA, 8-11, a WHIP of 1.42. Not really a good look there. But yeah,
great transition. Let's breeze into hot players of the week.
Yeah, well, let's move into some guys that we want to talk about. Hot players of the week. Let's start in the American League. Greg, I'm going to throw it over to you because I have an idea of who you're going to pick, and then I'll take mine.
I don't think you know I'm going to pick.
All right, go.
I'm going to pick Kendry Morales from the Toronto Blue Jays.
Good pick. That's what I was going to take, fuckhead.
7 home runs, 12
RBIs,
RBIs, 478 in the last 7 games, 8 runs scored himself, 7 home runs. That'll do it for you. 12 RBIs, pretty impressive. OPS of a 1.891. Tore apart the Phillies. Had a great weekend for them, and really no-brainer for me. Jordy, who you got?
Well, yeah, he tied the major league record for home runs in a consecutive game at 7. Really easy pick.
Thank you. Who do you think I was going to go with?
I thought you were going to go with JD Martinez, who is not who I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Matt Chapman of the Oakland Athletics. 3 homers, 5 ribbies on the week, 7 runs scored himself, 3 walks. He did strike out 9 times, but that's okay. He had an OPS of 1154, and really just a guy that when he gets going and for how young he is on his way to becoming a premier player in the big leagues. And I think those Athletics, they also had Stephen Piscotty and a big week for him as well. But the Athletics, they're trending on the right way in the American League West, and that they're still down right now to the Astros. But I mean, I think they're going to be fine as they get closer and closer to the playoffs, and guys like these are going to help them get there.
Yeah, great pick. I can't pick JD because can't pick a guy on a team that just got swept personally. But I love it. Jordy, my National League hot player of the week, if you're okay switching over.
Yep.
Anthony Rizzo, former Red Sox from the Chicago Cubs.
Okay.
This past week, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, hit 429 with 7 runs scored himself. Sort of a OPS of 1.500. Great week for him. Great week for the Cubs. Could have gone with Javi Baez, who had 2 more RBIs, but end of the day, I'm going with the guy who got on base more, scored more runs, and had a higher average. Plus, you already mentioned the aforementioned baseball bat he had with Chris Bryant.
Yeah, that's a good pick there. I am going to go with Javi Baez because he had himself a big week and sneakily continues to keep himself in the NL MVP conversation. 3 homers, 8 RBI, as you mentioned, 423 batting average, a stolen base added on just for kicks. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. It's a good week for the Cubs on a lot of different angles. Winners of 5 straight. And these guys, they're the guys that got them to the World Series 2 years ago, and it's the guys that are going to carry them there this year.
I figured you would have gone with Gregory Polanco, former Phil.
Yeah, could have gone with him. Could have gone with Freddie Galvis on the San Diego Padres. Or I could have gone with Jeff McNeil, guy that just been on an absolute tear over the entire month of August.
Christian Yelich.
Yeah, Christian Yelich is up there as well.
A lot of guys had a great week, Jordy. Who you got for pitchers?
Yeah, so we'll start for my Billy Chapel starting pitcher, excuse me. We've decided to make some clarifications of the week. For the American League, I'm going to go with Blake Snell of the Tampa Bay Rays.
Blake
Having himself an awesome year. This past week, though, in the last 7 days, through 12 innings, went 2-0, 19 strikeouts, only 2 runs let up, had a whip of .75 and an ERA of 1.5. Just a great week for him, and he's putting himself together a very, very strong 2018 campaign for a Tampa Bay Rays team that we mentioned before. Also a fantastic week for them. So, good look on him that he's a guy that's developing into, a stud pitcher. And we'll see what Tampa Bay decides to do with him going forward, because he was in a couple conversations for a potential trade, and looks like they're going to hold on to him at least for the time being.
Jordy, what a great pick.
I know.
What a great pick. I'm going to go with Mike Fiers of the Oakland Athletics.
A great pick.
2 wins on the week, 15 Ks, .71 ERA. Normally good.
Normally good.
.71 whip, so good on you, mate. Oakland Athletics, I mean, we talk about them week in, week out. The team that's surging at the right time, and their starting pitching is a big reason why, and he himself certainly helps out with that. No brainer for me. I mean, Snell was the obvious choice, and I'm pumped you said him, because I was going to say him if you didn't. So I'm glad I got to mention Fiers as well.
That's good to hear. I'm glad that we agree on something. But in the National League, Greg, I'm going to go with Kyle Hendricks of the Chicago Cubs. Big week for him in going. Actually went 1-1, but he had himself a fantastic week, pitching 14 innings, only 2 runs on the week, and a whip of 1. He let up a lot of hits, but got himself out of some danger there. Went 1-1, but an ERA of 1.21. So, I mean, a nice week for him. And really, where the Cubs have had their ups and downs with starting pitching this year, really, aside from the acquisition of Cole Hamels, you had that fantastic up, but then the huge downer of Yu Darvish and being out for the season. Having a guy like Hendricks, a guy that's kind of proven himself time and time again as a consummate guy, in one of the rare cases of a trade in terms of sending out a big name and getting a huge prospect back. I'm talking about Ryan Dempster down to the Texas Rangers, and they got Hendricks as part of that, as kind of another guy added in. He's been everything the Cubs needed and more so.
Great pick, Jordy. And he's part of their starting rotation, correct?
Correct.
So they're going to have some tough decisions to make, because they have 5 or 6 guys who are starters that are just poised to have big playoffs in big September. So good for them. Tough choices. I'm going to go with Kevin Guzman from the Atlanta Braves. 13 innings pitched, 2 wins, 2 games, 2 starts, 10 Ks, and a 0.00 ERA. So Braves team that really has, you could argue, taken commanding lead of 3-game lead in the NL East, taking advantage of the 500 fills. So good for the Braves, and their starting pitching has been unbelievable all year. So especially for how young they are. Another team that has certainly outperformed their expectations. And if you go back to the preview blog, the preview pod, I should say, I'm almost positive certain members of this pod had the Braves either last or second to last, maybe third to last. So good for them.
The Braves second, you had them third. If you're trying to call me out,
I wasn't talking about you.
Oh, all right. Just keeping people in check here. No, but talk about a great acquisition. Another one that kind of just goes under the radar, because really, when you think of,
I had the Phillies in second, rightfully so, and that's where they are right now. So
yeah, so you had the and you had the Braves below the Phillies. I had the Braves second, and the Phillies in third. Regardless, back to your guy. I'm giving you credit. I'm giving you. Kevin Gausman, since he got acquired by the Braves, the Braves have won 4 of his 5 starts, and he's gotten a decision every single time. And really, the one loss he had against the Mets, it's because the Braves bats went absolutely cold. But this guy has pitched 8 innings twice against the Brewers and the Pirates. And then the other 2 starts have been both against the Marlins, coincidentally, but they've been six innings and 5 innings, and then had that loss against the Mets. So 4-1, a 1.69 ERA since coming over. And the guy's mowing down batters left and right. Gets a great ground ball, fly ball ratio, and doesn't really throw a ton of pitches. If he can keep his pitch count low, that's how he's been able to get through 8 innings so many times. And it's just one you got to tip your cap to the GM of the Braves for getting him and seeing what was so obvious with Cole Hamels, despite him having some subpar numbers. But what I think you and I actually had mentioned it, that he could have himself a potential to get traded. So could have Alex Cobb. But Gausman, a great acquisition for the Braves. So while I'm a little bummed that they continue to climb up in the division, you got to tip your cap to a good trade and a even better result afterwards.
Hey, before we do bullpen pitcher of the week, manager of the year, Braves or Phillies?
I think you got to go with whoever wins the division.
Yeah, I think you got to go with Gabe the Babe.
You think regardless?
He's a babe.
Just because he's a babe? Man Rocket?
Jordy, who's your bullpen guy of the week? Who you got?
Yeah. I'm going to start in the NL. I'm going to go with Bud Norris of the St. Louis Cardinals. 3 saves on the week, only 1 hit and 3 walks. It's a whip of 1. Didn't let up a single run. So pretty clean week for him in terms of closing the door for the St. Louis Cardinals. This is a guy, Greg, who's been around basically since we were in high school. He's played 9 years in the big leagues. I remember when he was with the Houston Astros. But I mean, he used to be a starter, sort of reinvented himself in the bullpen. The guy has come on this year. We haven't talked about him a ton, but he has 27 saves and only 4 blown saves, a 2.91 ERA. And, this guy also makes appearances in non-save situations, which is, kind of cool to see. There's a couple holds in there, and, he's really done a lot from what his career had been. His total career ERA is 4.42, a whip of 1.39. And this year I mentioned 2.91 and a whip of 1.06. So awesome for him. 63 Ks and 52 innings on the week. And he went three Ks and 3 innings for the week. So good for him. And we mentioned the Cardinals at length before, but they're certainly doing the right things and starting to come alive when they need to.
Yeah, I mean, great pick, Jordy. I enjoyed the trip down memory lane for sure. I'm going to go with Jose Alvarado from the Tampa Bay Rays. 1 save, 2 holds, 0.0 ERA, 6 Ks in 3 innings of work in the last 7 days. Unbelievable week for him, and was a big part of why the Rays swept the Red Sox.
Yeah. Sergio Romo up there as well.
Yeah. Jordy, who's National League? Who you got?
So Bud Norris was my National League.
Oh, American League. Sorry, I skipped around.
Nah, that's all good. I'm going to go with Ken Giles of the Toronto Blue Jays. We mentioned him a little bit last week, but we had to cut part of it because the sound quality was shitty. This guy came over from the Houston Astros earlier this year for telling AJ Hinch, the Astros manager, basically to go fuck himself when he pulled him. And got sent over to the Blue Jays and really has done a lot for him. He was 3 for 3 in saves this week. No earned runs let up, but still kind of doing and kind of reinventing himself after getting a little humbled. He got sent down to the minors for a little bit, but as a Blue Jay, he's been, fairly solid. And I mean, while he's let up some runs here and there and gotten shelled, he let up 5 in only 2/3 at the beginning of the month to the Red Sox. But he's been able to convert his last 6 save opportunities and only let up 1 run, and that was to the Kansas City Royals. But good for him that he's been able to do that and kind of help out a really, really rough start to his 2018 and having a good August.
I love it. Great choice. My American League guy, or my National League guy, is going to be Josh Hader. We've been a frequent guy here for the bullpen bullpen guy of the week. He pitched in he made 6 different appearances in the last 7 days, 7 Ks, 3 holds, 1.1.
No, he made 3 appearances and pitched 6 innings. Even more impressive.
My mistake. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. You're right though. 7 Ks.
Even more impressive is right. Maybe I should read a little better than what I've been doing, but good for him. Unbelievable. Great week for him, and he's been called on time and time again for the Brewers all year. So honorable mention, Jordy. I have to mention a guy who the Phillies. He was going to be their number 2, maybe number 3 starter, and they traded him away like he was nothing. And look what he's doing now this week. 1 start, 7 innings pitched, 1 win, 7 Ks, 0 earned runs. Can you guess who it was?
I'm going to think you're talking about your guy, Clay Buchholz, but please tell me.
Oh, I'm 1,000% talking about Clay Buchholz.
Yeah. I don't think – did they trade him away? I thought he walked.
Did he?
I think he walked. Yeah, he got hurt, and he only had a 1-year deal, and I think he walked away from the team. The Phillies wanted to try to have him be – they wanted him to have a good half of a year in the National League and then try to trade him. And he got hurt in spring training and never played a game.
Yeah, what could have been.
What could have been indeed. We also gotta mention, because I don't think we've spoken about him at all since he went over to the Indians, but Brad Hand having himself an awesome post-trade 2018 since going over to the Indians, doing a lot of different work for them, getting called on for holds, for saves. And I mean, the Indians paid a little bit of a price to get him, but it's definitely paid off for them. So I honestly don't think either of us have picked him since August 1st, but gotta mention him as an honorary bullpen guy of the week.
I love it, Jordy. I love it. I mean, there have been so many storylines that I feel like because we do this once a week, we are not able to get to it. So I love when we have the chance to do that, and I love when we have a chance to recognize guys that certainly have been deserving. And for those Major League Baseball players who listen, and we haven't mentioned you, please DM and let us know, or tweet directly at ThunderBLG on Twitter.
Or just come on to the podcast, and we'll give you the credit then.
Or just come on the podcast. We'll give you the credit then. Jordy, any stadium snacks from the week?
Yeah, so I have an interesting one for you that I saw tonight. I saw on the Phillies broadcast, they now have a vendor at Citizens Bank Park that's the beer cycle.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's a guy that it basically looks like almost like a giant tricycle, but on top of the 2 wheels in the back is a giant cooler of kegs, but it's in a box, so almost like the giant boxes like Grubhub guys bike around with around cities. But this guy, it's a giant, there's taps and shit. So he's biking around the concourse, and basically if we saw him, we'd pull him over, and he'd, paying the money instead of handing us a can of beer, he would pour us beer out of the tap. So the Phillies are highlighting this, and this is the new attraction at the ballpark. And they, at the very end of the segment, within an inning, so they're still having John Kruk and Tom McCarthy talk about the baseball game, but trying to interview the guy of what the hell the beer cycle is. The guy starts trying to bike away so they can see him riding around, and the fucking kegs are so heavy, the guy couldn't get the bike going.
That's awesome.
The funniest too is that because they did it in the middle of the concourse, there's all these dudes trying to get on TV and everything. Some drunk guy was trying to get an EAGLES chant going. So it's just a complete fuck up of how everything's going with this. But it's a cool concept, and I'm excited to see it when I go down later this week. But the fact that in the moment that this guy needs to step up, they're like, yeah, Mike or whatever the guy's name, he's got big, strong legs. So kids, don't try to bike with 2 kegs on the back of your bike at home, and the guy can't fucking get it going. Greg, you there? Greg? Greg? Greg?
Yay!
Hey.
Sorry, my internet went out.
Oh, shit. All right.
But it's back on now.
All right. That
Are
works.
we still live?
Yeah, we're still live.
I love it. We're so last thing I heard was the guys starting the Eagles chant, and that was the last thing I heard. But
I
nothing.
mentioned that that they were saying on the broadcast that it was funny that like they mentioned like, oh, Mike has big strong legs, and then he couldn't get it going. So want to just go from there. That I had just said that, and you responded.
What was the last thing you said?
So they mentioned it's funny on the broadcast. They mentioned Mike or whatever his name is has these big strong legs. So kids, don't try to carry 2 kegs on the back of your bike at home, and then the guy can't fucking get it going.
Yeah, I know, and there's nothing worse than there's literally nothing worse than in your primetime moment, regardless of whether or not it's on TV. But if anyone's watching, in your primetime moment, you turn around and fail, right? Or you don't, you come up short, and to do it on national TV or even when there's a crowd, again, without TVs, just not be able to perform. It's like in golf when you pass a group in front of you because you've been hitting into them all day, and then all of a sudden you shank a drive off and you shank your second, and it's just like,
yeah, when they wave you through.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh God, that's the worst moment.
Oh, the worst moment. And the next round you birdie, and it's just like, or the next hole you birdie. So it's just the worst thing is when you're put on the spot and you don't come through and magnify that by ESPN and I assume it was Sunday Night Baseball.
No, this was tonight at the Phillies game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So new attraction at Citizens Bank Park.
I love it.
Yeah.
I didn't have a stadium snack, but I did have a bleacher creature, and we talked about it in the beginning, and we can talk about it a little bit now. But again, it's the Little League World Series. It's the fact that it's over. Another year came and gone, and pumped to see the U.S. win again and get back to it. And Hawaii, hats go out to them, and obviously we would be, if we didn't mention the hurricane and everything, and how the couple of the islands that were pretty brutally hit. So it stinks for the kids going back to that, but at the same time, at least they brought some joy to their country, and hopefully the country can celebrate them properly.
I mean the state?
Sorry, the state. Good point.
It's our 50th state. You don't have to worry about that.
Just edit that out and make sure I say state the whole time.
No, we're gonna keep that on.
But put in one of those like obvious like edit voice.
Jesus, it's yeah. We'll keep it natural. Oh, natural, as they say.
You have any bleacher creature?
Yeah, so I mentioned it before earlier this week when the Astros were in LA. Justin Verlander stayed, I think, at the Hollywood Hotel, and he ate at their restaurant that's there, and he gets his bill back. And did you see this? He got charged $1 million for being, quote, a Dodger killer. And he took it in stride and everything, and I'm sure they didn't actually get charged that. But the weird thing, Greg, did you see this whole check? Or did you just see the $1 million?
Yeah, I saw the whole check.
Did you notice that it cost like $30 for an order of pancakes?
Yeah, they are in LA.
What the fuck? No wonder these people are always pissed off all the time in Hollywood. They're getting $30 pancakes. How much is a hamburger? $45? Like, Jesus.
They are in LA, and it was probably...
Beer was $5 in Seattle. How are you paying $30 for pancakes?
It was probably at the Four Seasons restaurant. It was probably at the nicest restaurant money can buy, especially with his wife there, who's
Yeah, that's actually a good point too. With the money that she probably makes. What do you think? Does she make double his salary?
I mean, Giselle makes more than Brady, and she's the number one model in the world. So I mean, Major League Baseball players get huge amount of money. So
Yeah, he gets paid a lot of money, but she like between being a model, all the different like she has endorsements. She's got Kate Upton's got a nice little career going.
True. I mean, it's a great question.
Yeah. Yeah. If only there was a website we could search it onto. But let's look at the rest of the week. Let's wrap things up. Yeah, good call on shouting at the Little League World Series. We mentioned at the top of the show, but definitely kind of an underrated part of August. You only think of it as preseason football, summer baseball, and basically the U.S. Open for tennis and the PGA and golf, but you kind of forget about the Little League World Series. So it's always a fun surprise to remember, oh yeah, this is one of the more fun events of the summer to watch.
I love it.
Yeah, let's wrap things up. Look at what we got on the Major League Baseball schedule for this week, and the series to watch out for. Greg, I'll start with during the week. I am going to continue with the series that we highlighted throughout the show, the Houston Astros hosting the Oakland Athletics. Just really, it has so many different implications on what's going on in the AL West, and the Astros currently are up 8-4, so they're starting to blow that thing open. But yeah, I mean, it's just such a huge implication on that division and where it could go. And if Oakland can bounce back either in this game or the rest of the series, it's going to only make that division tighter. But if the Astros can, get a sweep here, it could, start to help them get a little bit of a gap as we enter September.
I love it. And not a great beginning of the week in terms of series to look out for.
Very low Monday in terms of volume.
I'm going with the Rays and the Braves. The Rays obviously being the team that hot team of the week, winners 8 straight, and the Braves a team that we're rooting for them to lose. So I was going to pick the Phillies at home versus the Nationals, try to get things back on board, but I think it's more important that the Rays beat up on the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, so it's weird because it's a 2-game series. It's only Tuesday and Wednesday for this, right. So it's kind of a quick stop and see how it goes for both teams, because you're right, the Rays stay hot. It helps the Phillies in terms of hurting the Braves, but the Braves could curb that and see themselves really start to potentially open up a gap for them. Tuesday they got Julio Teheran pitching, who's had himself an up and down year this year, so we'll see if he can bounce back. But Wednesday they got Sean Newcomb, who's had a decent year, versus Tyler Glasnow, who guy came over, I think, in the Chris Archer trade and has been pretty solid for them. But I really like that pick, Greg. That's definitely a good one.
Thanks, Jordy.
No, but other good midweek series as well. You got the upstart hot Reds who can turn it on almost like that, hosting the Brewers. So we'll see if the Brewers can start getting what they need to do done if they want to stay in this series. Same with the Seattle Mariners going down to San Diego to play the Padres. But this weekend, Greg, what series are you keeping an eye out on?
Outside of the obvious Chicago and Philadelphia, Cubs and Phillies, an intriguing matchup to me is the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah.
Diamondbacks heading to the Dodgers. Dodgers really need to win this series, if not sweep, just to get their way back into. I mean, again, we talked about this. They're only 2 games out, but they really need to win the series because the team they're chasing is literally in their home park. So, what better way to chase down the team in front of you than to beat them yourselves rather than rely on other teams to do it for you? So, that is the most intriguing for me. But obviously, I'll have my eyes on Phillies and the Cubs. Jordy, who you got?
Yeah, so I'll be at Friday at Phillies and the Cubs. That's Bark in the Park night, taking my dog to the game. That should be a lot of fun.
Humble brag.
Oh yeah, not a big deal. Luna's gonna love the game. She loves watching Phillies on TV, so she's gonna love the ballpark. But the series I'm looking out for, Greg, is going to be in the American League West, staying out there, continuing to have the Oakland Athletics in it. It's going to be the Athletics hosting the Seattle Mariners. Kind of a loser leaves town, if you will. Oakland would not be out of it by any means if Seattle were to come out and sweep them or win 2 of 3. But if Seattle loses this series or, God forbid, gets swept, it could start becoming curtains for them, especially with the Astros playing the Angels this weekend. It's something where they might start falling a little more and more and more out of that both division race, and really now it's between the A's and the Mariners. I almost said the A's and the Athletics for that second wild card spot, with the Yankees really starting to extend themselves above even the Astros in terms of record. So really just a super important series for them for that hope towards the second wild card spot.
Great pick, Jordy, and I'm happy you picked it because I figured you would go with that one, which is why I chose the one I did. But I love that pick. I love how you always pick the American League to watch out for, and I always pick the National League. So
yeah, well, we got to respect each other's game.
Interesting how that works. What's anything you want to close out with?
Mentioned Bark in the Park. Hopefully the humidity here in Philadelphia doesn't kill me. It was nice getting away from humidity for a couple days out in Seattle, but I'm happy to be home, and hopefully I can catch up on some Z's.
I love you.
I love you too, buddy. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Greg, thank you as always. We'll be back next week. As for what day we're recording, we'll have to figure that out with it being Labor Day. Greg, got any fun plans for the weekend?
My brother's birthday.
Oh, so, nice.
My oldest brother, 34, 30. Yeah, Paul Pierce, 34.
Oh, big one.
Yeah, so he wants to head up to a brewery around here, so get to do that. Jordy, what do you do?
Going to the Phillies on Friday. Probably play some golf Saturday, and then Sunday. A buddy of mine and his girlfriend are having a pool party at her parents' house. So going to that. That should be a ton of fun. We have some friends coming in from out of town that moved to Denver about a year and a half ago. Or no, just about a year ago now. So they're going to be in town. It'll be really exciting to see them and other people, obviously. But it should be a ton of fun. I mean, obviously a great excuse to get outside, barbecue as the warm weather season is starting to come to a close, and college football is coming back, baby.
I love it. I'm so pumped for college football. I love college football.
Yep. And make sure, speaking of, Maddie D and I are going to be recording the final preview for the college football season, the Big Ten and the SEC on Wednesday night. It's going to be dropping Thursday morning. Make sure you download that, mash that subscribe button on Thursday. First thing, so you can have it in before the Thursday night Thursday night college football games, not Thursday night NFL, because those are going to be the worst preseason games for week 4. But yeah, the college football season, basically we got 5 straight days of like marquee matchups. It's this, aside from like New Year's Day, has to be some of the most fun college football because they still front load some of the season. And I won't spoil too much. We get a ton to talk about on there, but it's a lot of fun. And Greg, I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it. I'm excited to hear everyone's thoughts on this podcast as well.
Go Phil, go Sox.
I'm glad you said go Phillies as well. Let's go Phils.
Go Sox.
Have a good week, everybody. Peace.
Go